Okay, so another technique these masters use is the 90-degree angle, the right angle, and that incorporates strength into the composition. You don't want it to look like a bucket of worms or a plate full of noodles. You got to add some strength in there. When I say 90 degrees, I don't mean the square straight up and down, because those, if we go into a building or we look outside, we can see things straight up and down all day long. So 90-degree angles on a diagonal, and those are the ones that are pleasing to the eye, and those ones we notice. I made a shortcut for this technique, but I'll show you. All you got to do is drag out a square with the marquee tool, and you just push stroke. Okay, I created a custom shortcut, and if you use this action, usually 1 pixel or 2 pixels is just fine. So deselect that with Command D, and we're just going to look for the 90-degree angles. If you've read the blog and you know about the law of continuity, it doesn't have to be something obvious. It can be through the hair, down a shadow. It doesn't have to be so obvious. Here's one, looks like. So what I'll do is I'll lay that down, erase part of it. So if I turn this on and off, you can see that the arm is going up the chest right here. And it actually goes up to the foot. I erased too much. But you get the point. We can also see that this one, we can see, let me duplicate this and drag it over and see what we get. This one's lining up. Okay, so that's a good example of one being hidden but present. Okay, it's not obvious to the eye, but you can kind of feel its presence. So it's going across the hand, through the shadow, and then up the turban right here on the side of the face. Right there. Okay, so these are all hidden techniques. Let's see if we can find another one. So we can see one over here. It's a pretty easy one to incorporate, is the legs, the arms. If you read the blog, you'll see that there's a gamut within the model's pose that you can incorporate with strength or rhythm. There's another one. Looks like. So he's got one coming down the leg of the horse, and then to the leg of the man. Turn that on and off, and you can see how it creates that 90-degree angle. So these are all hidden techniques. Alright, that should give you an idea of the 90-degree angle. Okay, now the arabesque, which is definitely a necessity to any awesome painting or photo. I mean, if you can incorporate an arabesque into your painting, I mean, it's really, really going to be a pleasure for your viewers. It's really a nice technique to incorporate. I mean, Rubens, he's just all over the place. His arabesques are everywhere, and you can see just the amount of movement. So let's look at this. I mean, the arabesque basically flows real smooth, like the curve of a woman. You can see this coming in, coming down. Okay, this going up. He's got movement everywhere. This. Okay, the lion's tail's coming over around this guy's arm, and out that. This is swooping down. Where's it gonna go? You can continue with that. So if we go down, the line of continuity will lead us across this arm, up around. This is going to lead us down, swirling around. This is coming around here. Dominant arabesque. You don't want to make it all swirly. I mean, he's got so many of them, which is awesome. Got one in the clouds. This body is curling around. Okay, all this movement. This leg goes up here. And that gives you an idea. So the arabesque adheres to the law of continuity. which means your eye will follow the path of the least resistance. So you can go down the hair, across shadows, across highlights, across folds of material. The eye sees all this stuff. Some untrained eyes, they're not able to see it, but they can surely feel it. It's like when you go to the museum, you'll see all these master paintings. I mean, you can definitely tell something's going on there, but that's the beauty of it. I definitely recommend you guys try and analyze your own stuff. Find a painter you love and go ahead and analyze the heck out of them. So the ellipse is another technique we can use to incorporate unity and movement. Rubens always has an ellipse here or there. Sometimes they take a while for me to find. Whether this is exactly how he planned it or it's one of them Bob Ross happy mistake things, we can definitely see the connections. So once we look at this, the law of continuity again, and see how this is connecting to the horse across the blade, up the man's arm, across his robe, up the hair, and then around to this guy's arm, and then down the guy's face, and then back around again. So these are all techniques to unify this area right here, all these elements. And it doesn't mean you gotta have a circle here, a circle here, a circle here. You mix it up and you hide your design, and it's more pleasing. That's why the rule of thirds gets kind of boring. I mean, everybody places it on the lower horizontal or the upper horizontal or on the left third or the right. You know, it's so predictable. It's not good composition. It's not used by the masters, so we shouldn't use it either. You can see the movement he's creating with this, because you can see the arm lining up, the leg, and then this arm. So he's definitely trying to create movement there. So he's got this one going out of the canvas. This looks like one. Let me just set this one real quick. So there's that one. You can see the movement he's creating with the neck and this horse's body. You can also see this movement right here. Let's see if that creates an ellipse. Get that one. Alright, so you guys kind of see the magic of the ellipse. He's unifying all these characters. So let's move on to the enclosures. Enclosures, I'm not sure if we'll find any. Sometimes you won't find every technique, but we're going to try and locate some. Enclosures are real geometrical, simple shapes, like the square, the triangle, and a circle. So since we pretty much did a circle up here, we can say that's considered an enclosure. Let's see if we can find, this looks like a box now that I'm looking at it right here. You see the lines. So let me draw that out. I made a shortcut for this transform selection also, so you guys can do that too. It saves some time. So yeah, we can see this is an enclosure. I didn't catch it in the 90-degree area, but we can definitely tell he's creating some unity and strength there. Put a stroke on that. Okay, so you can see how he's unifying these bodies right here, across this robe right here, down the man, down his torso, across to this guy's, to the lion's mouth, forearm, up the lion's body, and then back again. Just kind of got to blur your eyes and not look too deep into it. Just see the overall image so you can get a feeling for what's lining up. This could be something that he planned, but it's not quite. You can see how it's lining up there, going across the body, down the calf, and then across the arm, but it's not quite. If it was fully an enclosure, you'd probably have this straighter, the arm straighter on the line, but he used this for the ellipse. Okay, this is just him strengthening the composition. Let's move on to the coincidences. These are used for unity as well. The grid promotes unity and coincidences. So if you use the grid, you're definitely going to be creating coincidences without difficulty because you just follow the line up and down and across. What I do is usually just push U and that'll select your line tool. At this size, at 650 px, 1 pixel is going to be good for me. So up and down ones are usually the easiest to find. You just pull down, hold the spacebar and shift, and you just move back and forth until you find something matching up. Okay, so we got this guy's face coming up the leg and then to the back of this guy's robe. Definitely these guys' arms are lining up, but I'm going to look for edge-to-edge relationships just so you guys aren't skeptical, and I just want you guys to see how this stuff will work for you, and maybe it'll inspire your work. These are all just tools that you can use. You don't have to use them all, but these masters certainly tried to squeeze in every technique they could to breathe the most life and viewing pleasure into their art. So right now we have this guy's head, the toe, and the edge of this guy's turban. Definitely got this lining up. Okay, this guy's head to the guy's back. Let's try some horizontal ones. Definitely got that lining up. So we have the lion's arm meeting up with the horse's arm. Always remember to incorporate and think about the background as well, because it's all part of your composition. We've got the bottom of this guy's foot and his hand right there. Lines back. Let's look at, see, we can definitely see straight lines in this composition starting right here. So we just drag it out and see if anything can line up. And basically just the background shadow over here. So that's unifying this with the same line. At the edge of this horse's nose, right here, following down to this guy's hand. You might think this is good luck, but once you get so many techniques, one after the other, and start digging deeper and deeper, you'll just realize, oh, man, these guys are freaking good. Sometimes you can take the edge of the shadow and run it down. Actually, that does coincide right up there. That's part of this coincidence. Alright, so there's definitely more coincidences there. I just don't want to burn up this whole video. I mean, you should be able to get the point. Right here's this forearm lining up with this line's back. Okay, so let's move on to locked in the grid. You basically saw that. We'll skip this part and keep it going. Figure to ground relationship, that's a Gestalt psychology principle, which basically means our mind can clearly define the foreground from the background. So one technique that I'm teaching is to draw an imaginary line around the subject and see if the contrast fades so much that you can't tell if it's the background or the foreground. If you get a large portion that's undefined, it means the viewer is going to have a hard time looking at it, and it's going to have to put in more work just to determine what's going on in the scene. So you want to capture their attention as quickly as you can and keep it there, okay, so they can see the other parts of your painting. Let's determine, I mean, we can pick any of his characters. I'll pick the lion, and we'll just draw a line. So right now, what we're looking for is a nice amount of contrast around the form to clearly define it from the background, and also, since he's got so many characters, blending in with the other characters. So right here, we'll just go across. He's got this lighter than this, so he's sure to include shadow there, which helps it pop. And this is pretty defined. Okay, he's got this dark value up against the light value. I mean, he could have added black hair here with the horse, or gray hair, but he knows how to separate the subjects, so he's making sure there's enough contrast there. So we'll keep going around. This is an area where the dark value of the blue is mixing with the dark value of the lion's mane. So this part is not clearly defined, so we're going to keep going around. And we've got dark against light here. This is definitely clearly defined. So once you get used to this, you can just do it real quick and you just go around and this area is lost. So we'll leave that. And he's got his tail. Okay, so that's pretty much clearly defined. I mean, there's only two small areas that are not containing enough contrast to make the line pop out, but that's still good. I mean, it lets it blend in with the background and helps create depth. Let's choose another one. This guy's hand is darker than the ground, so that's good. His forearm is lighter than the background shadow. It's going up. So you can start to see how these work. This is a horse hoof, so that kind of gets a little busy there. This goes up, it's clearly defined, it's going around. So far so good. This right here where his face meets the ground, that is not enough contrast. You can see his nose there, but right now if Rubens wanted this guy's face to pop out a little more, he could have added more light here, made this darker, or made this lighter and then this darker. So you just play with simultaneous contrast and clearly define the subject. So you just go around this. Skip this part since it's the other lion. You can see there's definition there. Go around all this area. And then shadow meets the shadow. Okay, so that guy's pretty good. I'll show you one more. We'll just do this guy. So we're going to start with the arm, go around, we can see it's clearly defined and separated from the background. Okay, here when his hair meets the shadow is lost, but that's good because it's showing the depth. Okay, this is good. That's why sometimes people overdo HDR and you get rid of the shadow and everything's popping out at you and there's no depth. You just have one big embossed image if you're doing it wrong. This goes around. You've got the highlight of the background there, which bumps up against the darkness of the body, so that's good. This is lost right here, but that's helping blend the guy into the background. This is coming around. This goes up. Okay, this is clearly defined, and then this adds to the depth. He's all lost in shadow, which is nice. And I'm sure in the original painting, you can probably see the horse's leg a lot better. So that's figure-ground relationship. If we want to walk in the same footsteps as the masters, we'll take our artwork and if it's a painting or a drawing, we'll run a line across our character just to see where it blends in, like this area, and where it pops out to help the viewer see what's going on. Because obviously Rubens is using this technique and he's creating depth. You definitely want to make sure probably 90% of your character is clearly defined just to help them enjoy your painting more so their mind doesn't get overwhelmed with deciphering what's going on there.